All right, so let's take a look at the ear. Sometimes it's helpful to see some of this demonstrated on an actual ear rather than a model. So the areas of the ear very quickly. This is the lobe. This is the helix. This is the antihelix in here. Right, this is the scaphoid fossa in here. It just appears to be just about a line on this particular ear, although, some people, it's much broader of an area. This is the crew of the helix. This is the lower crew of the antihelix. Right here's the antihelix, lower crew, upper crew, the triangular fossa. This is the upper conch. And this is the lower conch. So that in the tragus, of course, here the antitragus and the intertragic notch. So that gives us a kind of orientation here in the ear. There are some points that I just want to note for you. And if we follow the crew of the helix all the way until it meets up with the back wall here of the antihelix, we get to the liver area. The liver and the stomach are both back in this area. Some of the deeper organs are found deeper in the organ areas of the ear. The heart is in the deepest hollow in the center of the ear. The kidneys are kind of tucked up underneath here, just like the kidneys are tucked up under your rib cage, under the corner of the triangular fossa, but then under the lower crew of the antihelix, we come to the kidney point. The shenmen here, about 1/3 the distance from the lower corner of the triangular fossa to the upper corner, kind of along this. If we think about the triangular fossa as being an actual triangle, like a right triangle, there's a 90-degree triangle, there's a 90-degree here, and then this would be the hypotenuse of the triangle. And about 1/3 the distance right along the edge, we come to the shenmen point. So there are a number, certainly, of points in the ear. We kind of get a little bit of an orientation here. Let me just put a couple of needles in to some of the more common points, and I'll also show you a couple of different types of needles. So with a regular acupuncture needle, a point like ear shenmen is a good demonstration. Let me come around from this side. Just place the needle squarely against the ear and a solid tap so that the needle is fully in, so that make sure that when you tap the needle in, you've got it solid so that it's not above here, and that will anchor the needle very squarely in the cartilage. So for ear acupuncture, that's all that's usually necessary. If I was going to treat, let's say, the liver point, it would be tap the needle in, solid, and that will, these needles will stay very nicely during the treatment. I'm going to remove those points, and you always, when you're on face points or points on the ear, it's always a good idea to have a cotton ball in your hand. In fact, generally, it's a good idea to have a cotton ball in your hand in case there's a drop of blood. But points in the ear have a tendency to bleed a little bit, so that's a good caution. So if we were going, let's put an intradermal needle in here, and we'll just assume that our, for the sake of this video, we'll say that Noelle has some pain in her cervical spine, and so we'll look around the area of the cervical spine, which is down here at the bottom of the antihelix, where the antihelix and the tragus come together. Just above that, we start coming to that area. So we could press in here to see if there was anything sensitive, and we would ask there anything sensitive there, and if we got a positive yes right here, then we could put a needle in right there. We could either use a standard regular acupuncture needle, or we could use something like an intradermal needle. An intradermal needle like this one. This is a 6mm #1 intradermal needle. Got a little bit of a handle on it for grabbing with the tweezers with the forceps, and these needles are put in a very transverse direction, kind of right like that. And then once this needle is in place, we want to make sure that it stays there securely. These are semi-permanent needles and intended to be left in for anywhere from a number of hours to a few days. There are many different types of plasters available, but just a small piece of tape would be sufficient to cover that over. If you want to be extra secure, which I tend to like to do. I like to use what my teacher Kiko Matsumoto used to call the pillow in the blanket technique, where you take a piece of tape and put it under the head of the needle. We can work it in there. There we go. And you can probably see that. How that tape is under the head of the needle. And then we put another piece of tape over the top. And that sandwiches the head of that needle in between these two pieces of tape. It makes it very solid. This needle won't go anywhere. She'll be able to sleep and shower and whatever. And then when it comes time to remove the needle, she can either use her fingernail or a little pair of forceps and just pull that tape off, and the needle should come right along with it, which you can see right there. And then these can be disposed of. Another form of a semi-permanent needle are what's called a press tack, and these come small blocks of 10, and this is, I don't know if that can be, how clearly you can see that on the video, but this is like a little thumbtack type of a needle. And again, this will go into place on the ear if we were going to treat for some say mid-back pain, something like that. This just goes in really just like a thumbtack. You just push it in. It's in place. It holds. The tape is a very solid tape, and that should hold quite well for a number of days. And this is another type of semi-permanent needle. This is called an ASP needle. You may be able to see on the video, this one is shaped like a little barrel with a little arrowhead point on it. And when this is placed into the ear, it comes packaged in its little injector. Put your finger behind the ear, needle into Shenmen, and simply press. And that needle will then stay right in that spot. It's pretty well anchored into the cartilage with the point, which is kind of arrowhead shaped. And to firm that up, keep that in place, we'll put a little piece of tape over top. And again, that should hold in place for a few days with no trouble.